So this video is just about Chitwan, how we got on at Chitwan National Park and what we thought about it, and hopefully give you some information and some tips to have the best experience when you visit, or just some
idea and information if you're planning to visit as well, because we did a little bit of research before we visited, but I think there's a few nuggets of advice that we can give that we didn't find when we were planning.
So Chitwan National Park is a beautiful place. It's pristine jungle, forest, grasslands, and the Nepalese government and the various organisations have done well to preserve it. And they've got a great selection of wildlife there. Actually, they've got sort of 605, I think it is, one-horned rhino.
Out of a country population of 645, there are 605 within that national park, I think, approximately.
Yeah, there's I'm not sure how many tigers there are, but there's quite a healthy population of tigers, a healthy population of leopards, and various other mammals. Elephants live there too. There's I think a few different groups of elephants that live there, and it's a great place, which is why we were attracted to it. So, firstly we found a really good guest house to stay at, Hotel Rhinoceros it was called. We're not plugging it, but it's worth a mention because it was a nice place to stay. And
actually the host was really lovely. He couldn't do more for us, and at that point it was one of the cleanest places that we'd stayed throughout our whole trip so far, so that's always a bonus.
Yeah, I made a point of telling him so as well, because it was great, it was a good stay. And actually we were fortunate because when we first arrived at the hotel, the owner's father, who lived there as well, he came over to us and told us to follow him really, really quickly. So we weren't sure where we were going. He dragged us across the road and through a gate and through like a little foresty area, and there was a rhino. Apparently this rhino is sometimes wanders out of the park because there's access at that point where the hotel is. It's quite open there, and he sometimes wanders up to the edge of the boundary and has a walk around and investigates. And we were fortunate enough to, on that particular day, at that particular time when we were there, we managed to have a few minutes with the rhino. Yeah,
he just sauntered on through. He was oblivious, didn't care that we were there, just going about his own business, wasn't he?
Yeah, but we came here to see, one, to see tigers, but two, to see a wild rhino. And before we even got into the actual park boundary, there was a rhino we'd seen already, so we were treated to that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, welcoming committee.
Yeah. So safaris in Chitwan National Park, safaris, there's loads and loads and loads of tour companies, trekking companies, safari companies. You can imagine the streets just lined with them. They just go on forever and ever and ever. And it's a question of take your pick.
They all seem to be selling the same thing. When you kind of start to investigate or look online, if you want the tour package, they sell you a half a day of a jeep and a cultural show and a trip to a village and
all that sort of nonsense.
All the carbon copy for each place. So that put us off straight away.
Yeah, and I've got to be honest, we were a bit peed off. Let me tell you why. Because we found a company which was a company created by ex-guides that used to be guides in the park. And they're like a committee, and it's like their motto is
collaborative.
So it gives you the impression that it's local people trying to make a business out of taking people into the park and showing them around, giving them a good experience. So we booked with them.
It was all about the experience, wasn't it? And getting the best from.
Yeah, we booked with them and we paid a good price, I think it's fair to say. But the trouble was, we thought we were being taken into the park with that particular firm on their jeep, but when we got picked up and taken down to the front of the park, that's not how it works. Basically, there's guides already allocated to jeeps inside the park, and all the agencies are doing are selling spaces on those jeeps. And
that's how it appears anyway.
Yeah, it appears that they make it sound like you're going on their jeep with their guides under their circumstances for their price, but actually it's not the case. They take you down to an office where you're allocated to a guide and taken across the river and then allocated to a jeep and you go into the park. So actually it wasn't, we weren't going with a company we booked through, we just paid them the money and they obviously paid someone else to take us. So we were a bit annoyed about that. It's fine. The tour, we had a good guide in the park, very informative, English speaking, etc. But we're a bit miffed because we weren't taken into the park with the people who we thought were going to take us in. Put it that way.
We weren't given the expertise that we were perhaps expecting to get. Not saying that our guides weren't any good, but we kind of chose our company because we thought they were the best. And actually, it possibly seems that you might pay different amounts for different people, but you're still getting the same experience. At one point, we were contemplating going on a private tour because we thought we'll go on a private jeep, just the 4 of us, and maybe we'll have better luck. We'll be able to see more stuff. But it actually turns out that there's only one real route with a few little side options that everybody has to take. So regardless of whether you're in a jeep with loads of other people or you're in a jeep on your own, you're still only going in the same area and you're only going to see the same stuff. Just
to clarify, if you go to a national park in, say, India, there'd be separate roads and separate zones where jeeps are allocated into that park, and you can see different parts of the park. But Chitwan, if you take a jeep safari, you will only be going down through one road in one section of the park. If you look at the map and see the whole park, you will not be going into that large part of the park. You'll be going just down by the river to the road, and that's the only place you'll be going. You can pay as much as you want, private tour, whatever you want to do, but you'll only be going down that same road as everybody else, all the other jeeps. So our advice is don't waste your money. Go in a shared jeep, because you're going to have the same experience. You're going to have to cover the same ground, and it's not going to be any more quiet because there's other jeeps.
There's quite a lot of other jeeps.
Loads of other jeeps that go up and down the same route, so it's not going to be any quiet, or you're not going to see anything that the general riffraff is going to see. So don't waste your money. Go on a shared safari is our advice. We were there, we saw how it worked. That's our opinion anyway.
The only caveat to that is you might end up with a jeep full of really noisy people, which might ruin your enjoyment of it a little bit, but it's kind of, the choice is yours. There is an option to do a full day's jeep tour, in which case you go further and then come back, but you're only really going along the edge, you're not going deep into the national park, because there's so many streams and gullies that haven't had bridges built over the top. So unless you go on a walking tour, which is a completely different kettle of fish, and we couldn't do that with the girls, on a jeep safari you're a little bit limited.
But look, doesn't mean to say you're not going to see anything. We saw plenty of wildlife.
It was a nice experience. We've maybe not made it sound that it was, but
we're just making it clear about the situation with the jeeps, and I think it's important that people know that. But we saw loads of wildlife. We even saw tiger footprints, fresh tiger footprints, which tells us that tigers do roam in that part of the park. It's clear because we saw various different tiger footprints, and they're actually quite fresh, so it even means the tigers in the area within the last couple of days or even that day. So it's a question of luck. I think the chances of seeing a tiger are quite rare. People do see them now and then. The guides make out that they see them quite regularly, but I think it's a bit Billy bullshit. I don't think they see them as much as they say they do. But it's a great park, you're still going to see some wildlife.
We saw crocodiles, we saw
rhinos, monkeys.
Actually, Dan spotted a rhino. The guide didn't spot it as we were driving by.
Monkeys, deers, crocodiles, rhinos,
some
birds.
Beautiful birds. We saw some
wild boar.
beetles.
There's loads. There is still loads of things to see, and there's loads of flora and fauna and fantastic views of the jungle and the lakes and the rivers and that sort of stuff. So you'll pay. Even if you just see that, it's a great experience to see
and
that.
To have a bit of peace and quiet for 4 hours. I mean, the girls did amazingly to sit still and not play up throughout that time. They got a little bit touchy at one point, but they were really good. So.
No way.
Come on.
Especially after you fell asleep. Right, sit up here. Oh, go and sit on the front.
Girls, you having a good time?
Yeah.
Brilliant. We got some asylum lunch to keep you happy.
Yeah.
Have 4 hours of peace and quiet was lovely.
Unfortunately, we actually went to the park the wrong time of year, and we were actually told this by the guide who we booked it through.
Yeah.
Basically, this time of year, the elephant grass is really, really long. It goes up to 7 meters long, so you can be quite restricted to what wildlife you can see across the grass plains.
Because at points you're driving through and it's like either side of you.
I think the best time is March to May, something like that. But make sure you check it out because it's important. Because there's no point in going. There is a point in going this time of year. You're still going to see stuff, but if you go into the right time, then you'll probably see a hell of a lot more. So.
And also, they were good enough to point out. Well, actually, they pointed out while we were on the tour. So, but they were good enough to point out that if you go during the hot season, when most of the water holes have dried up, then the rhinos and most of the wildlife are restricted to where they can get their water from. So then there's more chance of seeing them because they're in more of a controlled, refined space. Whereas it's recently been monsoon, so there's water holes and there's water everywhere, so they can go wherever they want to drink. And that kind of really lowers your chance of seeing things as well a little bit.
One thing which I liked about the village, which sits next to the national park, what's it called again?
Sura.
Yeah. Sarah. It's the locals that live there are very, very, very proud of the park and their area, and they do a fantastic job of keeping the village really clean and well managed, and it was like a breath of fresh air.
There was no rubbish.
You have to understand that Indian and parts of Nepal can be very dusty and busy. Yeah, but this village was great, very clean. Locals really look after it.
And it's a tourist hotspot, so
and they're proud. Yeah,
for the tourists.
It's great. Yeah. But being a tourist hotspot, you pay a bit more money for food, drink, etc. We were quite shocked at the prices of food and beer and even eating local sort of restaurants. The cost
we managed to find a couple which were lower and more kind of local, but everywhere else just as continental and all sorts of different variety of food. And it, in the places that we've eaten, it tends to be a lower quality because they're trying to jack of all trades. So it's a little bit annoying.
One more thing I think we want to talk about actually is the animal welfare in the park. And what I mean by that is, I mean that Chitwan National Park is one of the very few national parks now that actually use mahouts, they're called.
And elephants.
So elephants, elephant labour. In the park, they sell a lot of elephant tours where you sit on the back of an elephant and go through the park. It's been discouraged now because basically because of the conditions that the elephants are kept in, and also the training and conditioning regimes that the animals go through. We're not going to bang on too much about it because this video is not about that, but Nick will probably tell you briefly.
Well, there's more research coming about to show that actually riding elephants and having 2 or 3 or 4 people on an elephant is proven now to be really bad for their physiology and to harm their spine and make them not very well.
We went to elephant stables. They're chained up, and they're chained up in a way that I think's purposely to piss them off and condition them, because you can tell that the elephants are in distress. The way they, drop their heads, they're constantly doing this, and they're like from one foot to the other, one foot to the other. They're clearly distressed, and
they're actually their 2 front legs were very tightly bound in chains, like really, really heavy chains, obviously, because they'd have to be to restrain such a beast. But their front legs were chained so tightly together they couldn't even take baby steps. Well, I suppose they could do baby steps, but no more than that. Saddened us. And they were using their trunks to play with the chains and try and
remove them.
Yeah.
So do yourself a favour, don't bother paying for an elephant ride, because you just add into it. When I told you a little while ago about the rhino that appeared at the front of our hotel. So that rhino,
he doesn't realise the boundaries.
That's his roaming ground. So it just shows you where wildlife and and
How
mankind.
much we've encroached onto the
clash, and it's actually it was a great experience, but it's actually quite sad because actually at night as well, and there was a wild rhino that came walking down the road because of the population expansion and development and things like that. But it was a great experience to be up close to them animals, but then it just at the same time it was sad because we're like in their territory. They're just trying to roam around and do their thing. But there you go. But look,
we were so lucky. I mean, gosh, to have two such close encounters
with a rhino,
with an almost endangered species in the same day.
And we're both free. We didn't have to pay to get into the park to see them.
I know.
So
We didn't need to go on safari after all.
Yeah, so that's it. Anyway. But,
yeah, on the whole, we really enjoyed Chitwan. It was just nice to take the foot off the pedal and chill for a little bit.
All right. See you later.
See you soon.